Hey there. Welcome to an afternoon recording of Money in the Morning. It's a crazy day here in the basement. We've had dishwasher repair people here. We've had I feel like people marching in and out, and lots of different recordings. We talked to Nicole Lappin today from Rich Bitch. She's the you see Nicole all over the place. What a fun person to talk to. Nicole Lappin is one of those people that when you talk to her, you feel like I haven't talked to Nicole Lappin in like 2 years, and she's that person, that friend that you have that you don't need to see very often, and you feel like you pick up right where you left off. So that was a fun interview. And then first time she'll be on the show on Stacking Benjamins in 2 weeks. We talked to Craig Celio about a fintech real estate project called Diversifund. And that will be in the middle of the show in mid-July. So that's a ways out. But anyway, for those of you new to this, we do Money in the Morning podcast live in front of a Facebook audience. And I'm getting set up as we speak, and I'm having a lot of trouble with my recording devices today. So this may be a second. This is exciting TV where you watch me try to get ready for this. Oh, I just had it. Come on. Here we go. And while we're doing this, if you have comments during the show, feel free to put those in the comment section while I'm doing the headlines, and we will discuss those. Oh. Get my sound check done here. Oh. I was probably there's two recordings. This one's a little too loud and the other one's a little too quiet. And I've got this turned down almost all the way to the bottom. And then I've got this one turned up all the way. It's clearly louder, but it's not a ton louder. I wish I could make the other one more quiet. All right. It is what it is, right? Hey, Leslie. I thought your thing in the basement was hilarious the other day. Is that yesterday? 2 days ago? The basement Facebook group. Okay. All right. Oh, I got to do one more thing, and then we're ready to go. You know, this is great TV. Daryl's back. All right, guys, let's get this party started. The hard part is because we don't edit, is changing, clicking between screens and changing all the pieces. And of course, I make it so intricate, it's difficult to do. All right, here we go. This will be for next Tuesday, unless something big comes along. Here we go. Over Memorial Day weekend, I was on my way to Big Bend National Park when driving down the road about an hour from home, still roughly 12 hours away from our destination where we were going to go hiking and have some fun. By the way, a phenomenal national park. The car in front of us lays on the brake, skids back and forth, and a big, huge semi-tire remnant comes over the top of it. You hear it slam, by the way, into the tire. You see the bumper half off the car in front of me, goes right over the top of it. There was nowhere to go. I'm in the passing lane. There's a car on my right, narrow ditch on my left. Tire hits our car. And initially I thought nothing was wrong, but it turned out that there was a lot wrong with our car. And now we have to have the car fixed. We have to go to our insurance. We have to have all that covered. That's the way things happen, isn't it? Potential tragedy that time, nothing big in this case, but potential tragedies come out of the blue. We're going to talk about a tragedy that actually happened, that hit the news last week. That's our first headline today. And what that has to do with your planning, what that has to do with your money. And then secondly, saving for a K-12 education. New studies show you might be doing it wrong. We got all that today on Money in the Morning. Live from my mom's half-finished basement in Texarkana, Texas, it's Money in the Morning. Hey, Stackers, I'm Joe Salsi. Hi, Average Joe Money on Twitter. And what a sad show today in some ways with our first headline. But we're going to wrap it up and give you, hopefully, some good news and help make your planning better. You know, we often learn from headlines, and that's what this show is all about. We're going to take two headlines about two totally different things. We'll talk about them both in detail, about how they can help your financial plan. And then at the end of the show, we'll take them together and tie them into one big idea that you can take with you the rest of the day and beyond. Money in the Morning is brought to you by M1 Finance. That's M, the number one finance. You know, if you're somebody looking to do better with your investments, M1 Finance is free, but that's not the way I like it. That's not why I like it. I like it because on one end, if you want it to be a robo, you can. If you want to do your own thing, you can. Flexibility of an average brokerage account, the common sense approach that an investor really looks for that I can't find elsewhere with their pie system. And if I want to press the easy button, I've got all the pies like a robo. Head to stackingbenjamins.com/M, the number one finance, to be invested. We're invested in some big headlines today. We got a lot of ground to cover, so let's get this party started, shall we?
Here come two headlines ripped from the financial press, only at Money in the Morning.
Well, she said it, so we have to do it, don't we? Our first headline comes to us from Associated Press. We found this on Yahoo. This is bad, written by Jennifer Kay and Mike Schneider over at Associated Press. Riders plunged 34 feet, 6 injured in roller coaster derail. Did you see this? People out having fun for the summer, just having a good time, riding roller coasters, and it didn't go well. This is in Orlando, Florida. A roller coaster that derailed in Florida has been put out of service by state inspectors twice in the past year and a half because of problems with the ride. 2 riders fell 34 feet when their car derailed Thursday night and was left dangling from the track. Firefighters used ladders to pull 8 others to safety high above the Daytona Beach boardwalk. Quote, the front car, which was holding 4 passengers, completely came off the tracks, said Daytona Beach Fire spokeswoman Sasha Staten. The 2 riders who fell from the Sand Blaster ride suffered traumatic injuries, she said. Of 9 passengers taken to the hospital, all but 2 were discharged by Friday afternoon. A month before the derailment, a state inspector had found problems with the ride and the roller coaster was ordered to be taken out of service. State inspection reports released to the Associated Press last Friday showed that an inspector last month found excessive corrosion, a damaged seat, and a crack in the track. Those problems, though, were corrected by the time of a follow-up inspection Thursday, according to the reports. Deficiencies corrected, the inspector noted in the comment section of the report. And the piece goes on, and I'll have it in my Twitter feed. You just go to Average Joe Money and check it out there if you want to read the rest of this piece. How horrible is that? You're on a roller coaster, just enjoying yourself, stuff happening, right? Nothing happening, having a good time, when bam, your life completely changes. And it's funny because we all think when it comes to our planning that stuff's going to happen at the end of the story, right? Interesting documentary about longevity that I saw and about the process of dying that I saw that talked about this. We all have this idea in our head that bad things happen at plot points like they do in a movie, right? We get to the second act of a 3-act movie. We don't even really think about it as acts unless you're writing the script, but a script is divided into these 3 parts. And in the second act, bad things happen. We know in the middle of the movie, they're going to be screwed. Everything's going to go wrong. And at the end of the movie, they're going to finally solve it, right? It's going to work like that. We see it all the time. Real life doesn't work that way. And that makes it frustrating for us. And that, kids, is why insurance is so important. Insurance is important because of the fact that we don't know when disaster is going to hit. Now, here's the deal. I said insurance is important, and insurance companies want me to talk that way. Yeah, you need insurance. Let me sell you some insurance. You know what's even more important than insurance? Insurance is super important. Even more important is expanding that scope. So instead of thinking about life happening like it does in a movie, never happens that way. Same thing with your planning. We don't want to just look at insurance. We want to pull it back. We want to have a bigger view. And with that bigger view, you know what we look at? Risk management, because there are other ways to solve problems than insurance. But the reason I like insurance is because if I can't find other ways to solve a particular problem, an insurance company can do it for me. Now, the bad news is I got to pay them a fee. The good news is when disaster strikes, and it always happens when you don't want it to happen. As I said earlier, I'm on my way to Big Bend National Park, getting ready for this fantastic weekend. And there was this big probability that our car could have gone down and my whole weekend's ruined. Insurance couldn't help me with that, by the way. What insurance could have helped me with is if I got disabled, if one of us passed away, we had commitments, whatever it might be, insurance can pay some bills. Insurance is paying the bill for fixing the car, except for $100. It's covered under my comprehensive insurance because it wasn't a collision. It was this thing in the road, right? That I couldn't get away from. Big old tire, by the way. And by the way, the guy at the fix-it shop, that's a technical term that they use, the fix-it shop. The guy fixing our car, Jeremy said, you know what they call those big tire remnants in the road? Those big semi-tires? They call them gators because they have that, the tread looks like an alligator and it's long and spread out. So if you never learn anything from Money in the Morning, you just learned probably the most valuable piece. Actually, I'll give you something even more valuable, which is when you're evaluating insurance, you turn things on their head. The most expensive insurances are probably the ones that you're going to need. The ones that are the cheapest are the ones you're going to want to stay away from. You're like, Joe, you made sense until then. I don't want to pay too much for insurance. Wait, hold on. We still want to compare insurances, but when it comes to types of insurance, we want the ones that are more expensive, because the reason they're expensive is because actuaries have figured out is probably going to happen to you. And competition keeps profits somewhat in check, right? So a company like Allstate can't charge significantly different than a company like State Farm, Geico, whoever, when it comes to car insurance. They got to be in the ball game. They're going to be better in the ball game for different people, but they got to be in the ball game in general. And so profits are going to be fairly close amount. The rest of the money that you're paying is going into this big bucket. And every once in a while, when somebody hits a tire, they take, like I am right now, I'm taking a bunch of money out of that bucket and I'm spending it on our car. That's the way insurance works. So insurance that's more expensive means a lot of people got to put a lot of money in that bucket because people keep taking money out. So the most expensive type of insurance that people don't want to talk about, in my view, is disability insurance. People can't stand it. Yet we hear this roller coaster accident. Let's say those people had to go to work the next day. You can't go to work the next day. I just got this huge problem on this roller coaster. Unexpected, out of the blue. That's also the reason, by the way, to have an emergency fund. If we have an emergency fund, we can build less insurance and instead do something that we all want to do, which is self-insure. Now, the bad news about self-insurance is we got to put that money aside and not use it for anything ever, except when these bad things happen. Because if I use it to my next trip to the theme park, I just ruined everything. I can't spend it. The money's got to sit there to be my self-insurance. So for a lot of people, you can imagine how much money that might take. But I'll tell you, if you've got a nice emergency fund that can last you a year, you don't need short-term disability insurance. Short-term disability insurance is way more expensive than long-term disability insurance if it doesn't pay till after a year, because most disabilities happen for a shorter amount of time than that. So self-insuring, when you look at risk management instead of insurance, you do a much, much better job. And obviously this is a tough thing, but learning how to evaluate insurance, big piece of the game. Hopefully we taught you a couple ways right there. Let's say hi to everybody hanging out with us in Facebook. We have a small group of us today because we're recording this at a time we normally don't record. We're going to say hi to Daryl, who's there. Daryl said that's part of the thrill. You never know if you'll live to see the end of the ride. That's horrible, Daryl. That is absolutely horrible. And Julianne says squirrels in the attic equals an emergency. That sounds personal. Are you talking about the raccoons in the attic we were talking about on the show, on the Stacky Benjamin show a few weeks ago? That's absolutely. Can you imagine having a raccoon in your roof? You're sitting watching television and a raccoon just falls through your roof. That's a big time emergency. That's a weird, sad call too. Hi, got to get, can you take the raccoon that just fell on me out, please? That's great. Next headline, because we do two of them, comes to us from CNBC. And this piece is written by Annie Nova. I found this disturbing. Few parents actually plan to use 529s to pay for private school. So if you think I just swore at you by saying 529, you don't know what that is. That's a college savings plan. And things changed last year for these college. I wish they'd call it college savings plans instead of 529s. So like Roth IRA, what the hell does that mean? 401k, right? 403b, all these numbers. Let's just call it a retirement plan. Retirement savings plan, college savings plan. That's what a 529 plan is a college savings plan. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act made a big change to 529 plans, this piece says. The tax advantaged investment funds that can be used for education costs. People can now use them to save not just for college, but for K-12 private school expenses as well. It was considered a windfall for affluent families. But here's the bad news, kids. Fewer than 1 in 5 parents who have 529 plans are actually considering using them for their child's private education prior to college, according to a survey of 1,200 mothers and fathers by savingforcollege.com. Quote, I was a little surprised, said Mark Kantrowitz, publisher of savingforcollege.com and a student loan expert. I would have thought more parents would consider doing that. When parents were asked, 54% said no, 18% said yes, and 28% said not sure. And between a lot of those no's and some of the not sure's, it's because they don't understand how things have changed. A lot of people don't know that this rule exists, that now you can use your 529 to save for K-12 education expenses, private school expenses. He cited a few reasons why parents might take pause. They may be concerned their funds in a 529 plan could reduce their child's chances being awarded a scholarship for their pre-college education, he said. Quote, if you have resources available to pay for private K-12, then maybe that's going to be considered when you apply for financial aid, Kantrowitz said. Quote, it's a well-founded concern. Some schools have said that they're going to start considering 529 plans when asking parents about their assets. That can get ugly. Some parents may not believe it's worth it, he added. For example, when parents save for their college expenses in a 529 plan, they could, in theory, have almost a 2-decade-long investment timeline, right? 19 years. Whereas when you're saving for K-12 and you start having to use your plan when your child enters first grade, that money's only been invested for 5 years. So what they're saying, the returns are low, so maybe not a great idea to save, or people not saving. That can get people saying, what's the point, right? There can be an absolutely big point here. And I think the big point is, first of all, understand how these rules work. I think it's really cool that you can use a 529 plan to save for a private K-12 education. I'm a product of Catholic schools. You may not know it, but I might not sound the part, like not as educated as you'd think maybe a Catholic school kid should be. I don't know, but it was great for me. And actually 8th grade through graduation went to Catholic schools. And so we could use that money. We could use money that my parents had saved, or that ostensibly, I don't know how I would have saved enough money to do this, but I could have saved money for K-12 expenses. It could happen in a 529 plan. People used to save into these things called Coverdell IRAs. Coverdell IRAs are kind of going away now, with 529 plans being able to fund these. So people think it's not worth it. And the sad thing I see is people with young children often, not only are they not saving for K-12 education, even if they're sending their kids to those places, you know what else they're not saving for college yet. I would meet so many people that have kids that are 1, 2, 3, 4 years old, and they're not saving for college. Our friend Abby Chow over at College Backer was on our Facebook Live program that happens nearly every Thursday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, if you happen to be on Facebook at that point. And she gave us the number. I mean, if you save $400 a month, starting from the time Junior's born, you've just about made it. $400 a month. It's like a car you're never going to drive, and you're going to pay for it for 18 years. It's crazy, the cost. And K-12 can be expensive also. So, and our friend Ron here on our Facebook Live chat says 529, yes. Student loans, no. Absolutely. I don't want to go into debt. If at all possible. If I can stay away from debt, that's fantastic. So finding ways to save a little money early is going to get rid of the pain later, right? Making life easier for yourself is to do what I'm about to say, which is stop thinking about just the next thing coming up, especially young parents. I mean, I've been there. You've got all kinds of different things going on in your life. And now I'm thinking college. I can't think about college. I can't think about retirement. I got to think about this next thing. We're programmed to think what the next thing is in our life. But if I can train myself to think 2 things out or 3 things out and begin setting those up to be easier, now I can add some velocity to my life and I can go by these problems without having to get stuck on every single one. I see some of these poor families that get stuck on every single thing. They never able to build up any momentum. And the reason is because they're just going from one fire to the next fire. Let's get rid of the fires. Let's look at the more important stuff that's long-term. Find ways to save for that. And then when you get there, those end up being much, much easier. That's going to be the key. All right, in just a second, we are going to take these 2 headlines, which seem to have nothing in common, and we're going to put them together to one big idea you can take with you the rest of the day. But before we do that, I want to talk about M1 Finance. M1 Finance is my favorite place to press the easy button when it comes to your investments. You know, robo-advisors kind of bother me because if you try to get out of your robo-advisor or if they change the program, you're kind of stuck. We saw one robo-advisor recently add a fund that a lot of people didn't want. They were stuck unless they got out. And then you went to a different robo-advisor. When you get out, that creates a taxable event. At M1 Finance, you don't have to move your money specifically to another place, to another robo-advisor if you don't like the robo fund you're in, because there's flexibility. If I want to start managing my money myself, if I want to move to a different type of robo system, I can do it all inside M1 Finance. I love what they call their pie system of investing. I can have multiple pies doing multiple things in the same IRA, the same non-IRA account, whatever I want. So check it out using our link, stackingbenjamins.com/M1 finance for more. Let's say a quick hello. We got some chatter happening in our live Facebook audience. Daryl says, wonder what percentage of people have the money to fully fund their 529 for college and still have more to add for K-12. The answer is obviously very, very small. I mean, very, very small. But those cash flowing those early years can be so expensive. And if you have the money to do it, I certainly would put a little bit of money away in a 529 plan. And I partition it, right? I partition it so that this money is 529 plan for K-12, but the bulk of my money is toward college. I'm not thinking about K-12, Daryl, to answer you specifically. I'm not thinking about K-12 first. I'm thinking about college first, and then K-12, I do what I can do. Because saving into those long-term spaces, I can let compounding interest work on my behalf. And like the piece said that we just went through, given a 5-year return, 5 years, we have to stay kind of conservative, because if I get into an aggressive growth fund and the market goes south, I'm in a bad spot. With 18 years to go, I can stay pretty aggressive, which is exciting. Hey, Andy says 12 years of Catholic schools. It wasn't easy for my parents, but I don't think the 529 would have helped them much. I'm wondering why. Maybe they couldn't have saved before that, Andy. Maybe they couldn't have put money away for the next year because they're so busy putting away this year. I don't know. That's interesting. I think a lot of people don't understand the rule. And I think that what we're going to see in the future is more people. We will see more people use it. Maybe not people like Andy's parents, but I think we will see more people use it. Andy says for that exact reason, they were always putting out fires. Yeah. Daryl says fund college first and foremost, better yet, move to a good school district. You know, that's what Cheryl and I did. We actually rented a house longer than we probably should have, because that rent payment, the money that was going to be our down payment, was to rent a house in a really good school district, because education was pretty important for both of us, for our kids. That was a value of ours for our kids. And I'm pretty proud. Both of my kids, full-time jobs, great full-time jobs with great companies, and love what they do. And so many people don't love what they do that I'm very, very pleased that we were able to help them do that. Leslie says daycare is $2,200 a month. Holy McMoly, Leslie. So I'm all in for college, because interest at least works in my favor. That is $2,200 a month. I don't remember how much our daycare was for our twins, but I do remember that when daycare went away, we had a big fat party. I mean, not a literal party, but I think we went out to dinner and just celebrated, because that was so much money that was going out the window to the twins' daycare. It was crazy expensive. But once again, well worth it. I really like our daycare providers that we have. But we can't forget Julianne's squirrel story, by the way, before we move on to the big idea. Julianne said, I have squirrels and a leaky AC. Squirrels in the attic. Got it. Oh boy. Yeah, that's not fun. Good luck with that. That is not fun. Learn how to use the trap. We have squirrels outside of our house, and they were eating at the side of our house, trying to get in, and we actually trapped the squirrels and gave them a good home about 10 miles away from our house. Welcome to Texarkana, by the way. It's exactly welcome to the Getting Rid of Squirrels podcast. Speaking of that sounds like a squirrel moment. We got to get back on track, kids. We got places to go. Let's talk about the big idea. And to do that, let's review very quickly these two headlines. First headline was about this horrible accident where riders plunged 34 feet in a roller coaster accident at Daytona Beach. And our takeaway from that was to evaluate insurance carefully, learn how to practice good risk management. Huge piece of your financial plan is learning how to do risk management. And then second, parents not saving for K through 12 as hoped. And I think it makes your life easier if you can train yourself to not think about the next fire, but try to train yourself to think 3 or 4 fires ahead and plan those ahead of time so that you can build some momentum. Life is about building some of that momentum. So the big idea here is that when you're planning, this is a great part of planning, by the way. And this was my job when I was a financial planner, because people didn't realize you can do this. You don't even need a financial planner to do this. You can do this yourself. And that's to ask, what if? And you'll get great results if you do that. I remember doing this for our practice. What if a tornado hit our building? At that point, we had paper records. Shows how old I am. But we had paper records. And what would happen if a tornado hit our building? What about these paper records? Are they in other spots? Do we make sure we have them somehow locked up so that hopefully those papers don't get out? If they do get out, what's our strategy to make sure that we help keep our clients' data safe and alert our clients if for some reason it's not safe? Like all of these what ifs, asking those what ifs is a phenomenal use of time. And what I found was that even if those what ifs don't come true, the fact that you're patching all those holes, right? You make sure that you don't have any of those downside problems. It makes you able to focus then much more strongly on the future. And believe it or not, you can be a lot more aggressive. And you know why you can be aggressive? Because you're not looking over your shoulder. Like, we had a guy on our show, Greg McFarland, who was a great friend and a guy that I miss on the Stacking Benjamin show. But he always said, don't have an emergency fund. Why? Because an emergency fund is an asset not do anything. It's a lazy asset. It just sits there. My point's exactly the opposite. Don't try to maximize everything. Have the emergency fund in place doing nothing so that if bad things happen, I can keep my 20-year money out as 20-year money. I don't have to worry about my 20-year money. I can invest in fairly aggressive stuff. And if bad things happen to those investments, I don't have to go reel them in. Because if I got to reel those investments in at the wrong time, it's going to be horrible. Ask yourself, what if? I think that's the big takeaway. What if is a great game to play in your financial plan. And you'll find that not only is your risk management better, but it lets you step on the gas a little harder because you know that your downside's covered. That's going to do it for today, guys. Thanks everybody that was hanging out with us today on Facebook. Thanks to everyone at home, wherever you are, for listening. Thanks to everybody who's left us a review of the show. I love this review from Sparty. It's going on Mom's Fridge. Says, starts my day off right. And I love it when people tell other people that Money in the Morning helps them start their day off right. That's going on the fridge. If you give us a review, Mom might put yours on the fridge too. So please help us out and do that wherever you listen to the show. Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, wherever it might be. All right. Thanks again. We'll see you next time. Go stack some Benjamins. Bye-bye.
Money in the Morning is created by Joe Saul-Sehy and is brought to our channels by our producer and engineer, Richie Rutter-Reese. Stacking Benjamins and Money in the Morning are for entertainment purposes. Before making moves, consult with your financial advisor. Looking for training sessions? Kathleen Selemans has a great suite of Stacking Benjamins tools, so head on over to learn.stackingbenjamins.com. Hoping to chat with us on the web? Say hello to Shannon Cowan, our social media guru and community manager in our Facebook group. She can be found at stackingbenjamins.com/basement. From the basement, I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. See you tomorrow.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Karen. We are, I have to be somewhere in 15 minutes. I wanted to do a third one. And like always, we got through 2, which means there's a better than good chance you're going to see me here tomorrow and maybe even Sunday morning. So we'll see you then. So we'll be working Father's Day weekend, but that's fun. I love doing this. We already have those ready to go. So going to be a good time. All right, guys, have a great weekend. If you're online, we'll see you tomorrow or Sunday. If not, have a great one. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.